I'm Dale Lawrence. Welcome to The Travel Show. Thanks for joining us. This week we're back at the very stylish and fashionable Dream Hotel in Bangkok as we reflect more upon the events that took place in Pak Se, southern Laos earlier this year at the Mekong Tourism Forum. The forum attracted a very impressive cross-section of guest speakers, panelists, and even a celebrity chef. More about him later. Now, day 2 of the conference kicked off with a fascinating presentation from Robert Hecker. I spoke to Robert and asked him about his presentation in more detail. Robert Hecker, Managing Director of Horwath, based in Singapore. Robert, you've just given a very interesting presentation about the opportunities for tourism development right along the Mekong River. And of course, about 15 years ago, you were actually commissioned to do a study by the United Nations. So 15 years on, are things better or are they just different along the river?
Well, I would say bottom line is it's better in the sense that all of those promises of the infrastructure about transport, which has not just tourism, it's also trade and all that. I think so economically that is of ultimate benefit, and that's now there. And back then it was just a promise. So to see it all happen is a good thing. But I think what was most heartening, I think, on this trip coming up here for the forum was the new products that I've been seeing. And it seems like it's all something that's been happening for the last maybe 3 or 4 years, or at least within the last 5 years. So it's
You're talking about tourism.
Tourism products. So, you know, the new kinds of lodges that are definitely focused on responsible tourism and community involvement and just the ultimate comfort level of the accommodations.
Indeed, and I guess you've also witnessed probably quite a dramatic improvement in terms of the infrastructure with new roads, new bridges.
Yeah, that was definitely easy. I mean, it was pretty pioneering stuff 15 years ago, and now you hardly even think about moving from such and such place to such and such place for 300 kilometers. That would have been, maybe a 2-day journey before, and now it's certainly a couple hours, 4 hours journey.
One of the other points you made in your presentation this morning, Robert, was about the fragility of the region's natural asset. Where's the balance? How do you strike the balance between protecting those assets and yet encouraging people to come here to see them?
Yeah, that's a very difficult balance because there's so many players involved, and you have private sector, public sector, and certainly it's key to preserve what people are coming for, and you have to understand what people are coming for. And once you do, it's quite clear that they're here for the natural elements of not just the environment, but the social environment, the way of life, and that kind of social environment that is definitely fragile to over-visitation. And how do you protect it? I think there needs to be a mechanism where, yes, access is there to facilitate as many people who want to come can come, but the key is to make sure that it's not overdoing it. And I think, the idea of a carrying capacity, quantification of what the visitation should be is what is ultimately needs to be in place. And that usually has to be government driven in terms of being able to have some form of control on development. Because hotels are certainly a key infrastructure. After you have the access, the ability to stay is the hotel room. And so you don't say, okay, anybody who wants to build a hotel can build a hotel. That's a recipe for disaster because then you're not controlling the amount of visitations.
Delegates at the conference heard from Kathy Dragon about the so-called Silver Ages. Retired travellers with more time on their hands and possibly more disposable income to explore exciting destinations right across the Greater Mekong sub-region. Kathy Dragon from Travel Dragon, an online search engine. Now you're based in Colorado. Is that where the business is based?
Yes, it is. The business is me.
And the North American market, I think, is a very important potential source market for a country like Laos, and indeed the entire greater Mekong sub-region. But numbers coming here from North America are still relatively small, aren't they? What are you trying to do to increase those numbers?
Well, I think this group that I call primetime travelers, kind of the 50 to 70-year-olds, and obviously the boomer market is just exploding and right now turning 65, which is really exciting. They're finally starting to take the trips of a lifetime that they've always wanted to. Before they might have taken shorter trips, but now they're really investing in these long-haul destinations. So I think this area of Asia Pacific and specifically the Mekong region is just going to explode with North Americans coming here. They do want to do multi-country travel, so they will come and do Indochina and Thailand and Laos, Myanmar together.
It's an awfully long way for them to come, isn't it? So when they come here, I guess to get full value for their dollars, they do want to enjoy as many different experiences as they can right across the region. Where do they tend to go, first of all, and where are they spending most time at the moment? I would guess Thailand, but am I right?
No, actually, I think they're spending most time in Vietnam. Vietnam has a history where they're coming back to. There's been a lot of advertising around Vietnam, and so now also Cambodia, Siem Reap, they're coming to see that. The temples of Angkor Wat, of course, and now Luang Prabang has gotten more and more press. The Mekong is this, the mighty Mekong has the story behind it. They're not actually sure where it is and what countries are associated with it, but they're getting really excited about that. Yunnan, China is very popular. They're not as much, Thailand has been in general the north, indigenous communities, visiting with people. They're not as much beachgoers, so it's not hanging out on a beach. They don't have time for that.
So your prime-time travelers are really more interested in Thailand, for example, in Chiang Mai, in Chiang Rai,
Exactly.
And up into Laos, rather than spending 2 weeks on a beach in Hua Hin or Pattaya.
Exactly.
They probably did that in their younger days when they had young children, I guess. But again, access is very important, and it's not easy, is it, from North America? Are there direct flights to Vietnam, for example?
No, there's not. So people are either flying in through Bangkok or they're flying through Tokyo. So that's kind of where people are coming from and then doing connecting. The other issue is really permits and visas. So they're not really comfortable having to get a visa upon arrival even and standing in line and not sure if it's going to work. So the idea of having a visa that goes across the different areas is really going to help, I think.
Well, Kathy, you've touched upon an issue that's been discussed repeatedly throughout this two-day conference, the idea of one visa across either the whole of the greater Mekong sub-region or indeed within ASEAN. It's not going to happen, is it? And it's not going to happen because countries see visa applications as a cash cow. They generate huge sums of money from visa applications. It's not going to end anytime soon, is it?
I don't think it's going to end, but I think people are going to figure out how to make it easier. I think that's basically making things more accessible. It's very difficult to travel. It's not comfortable to travel now. Going through airport security, all of these different things that specifically affect this primetime traveler, make them feel sort of anxious when they, are going on this major trip of a lifetime. So I think people are going to figure out ways to help alleviate that, and people are willing to pay for it. So if someone can help them, escort them through, basically be a concierge to help them through, it's going to be a new skill.
I think you're quite right. People possibly are nervous about visa on arrival, the long queues, uncertain about whether it's going to work, and of course having to apply for a visa each time they cross a border. What can you do as a specialist travel consultant in the United States to help sort of ease the anxiety before they take their outbound flight out of the United States?
People are increasingly working with really high quality tour operators and what is called travel consultants, no longer travel agents. And these are people that specialize in Asia Pacific. And so they're really helping facilitate the getting the visas ahead of time whenever possible, talking them through, making sure someone's meeting them. The meet and greet is really important, giving them all the details that they need to feel comfortable with what they're packing, what to expect food-wise, safety-wise. Health and safety obviously is a huge concern with this group.
Indeed. Now, you've been sharing your own particular knowledge and expertise with the delegates this morning, and I know that they listened with great interest to your presentation, Kathy, but you're also learning yourself, aren't you? What are your impressions of the Mekong Tourism Forum, and what are the really key messages that you're taking away with you?
I was surprised by the number of people, by the representation, by the commitment to the entire region. I think it's really exciting how people are interested, definitely in sustainability, which I think and responsible travel are key issues that have come up over and over. These are not coming up at every conference. So I think there's a potential because it's kind of a startup, which I love startups. So I think there's a potential to do things differently. That really excites me, and the idea of collaboration across areas and with private and public sectors, that's what I've seen kind of bubble up, and that's what excites me.
In the world of information, opportunity only presents itself for a split second. In the world of wireless technology, accurateness and credibility are key. In the world of competition, information determines victory or defeat. Thai ASEAN News Network. Fast, accurate, impartial. Our experienced journalists bring a variety of news and information to you every day. Thai ASEAN News Network, Thailand's first and only 24-hour news channel. Thai ASEAN News Network, the information you need when you need it. Now on True Visions 78.
APEC, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. BIMP-IAGA, the Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East Asian Growth Area. SAARC, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. There are a lot of things we need to focus on. Focus Asia.
Every year, millions of foreigners enjoy the sights and sounds the Land of Smiles always has on offer. Which locations and experiences are your favorite? Share them with us here on TAN Network. Email pictures of yourself or your family at your favorite Thai destinations, and we'll share them on air with TAN viewers nationwide. Send your chosen poses to tanviewer@gmail.com. Don't forget to tell us where the picture was taken and why the location made such a lasting impression. We'll be rewarding the happiest pictures with TAN Network jackets, so do join in and share your happy moments with us.
Now, celebrity chef Bobby Chin added a touch of spice to this year's Mekong Tourism Forum. But before he demonstrated his culinary skills at a dinner hosted by the Laos National Tourism Administration, he spoke to the travel show in front of an audience of conference delegates. This is how I introduced him. Let me just tell you, just by way of introduction, what we're going to do this evening. Now, the theme for this conference, of course, is Destination Mekong, the Making of a Star. Our guest this evening is actually already a star, and you saw why, I think, on that clip. He was born to a Chinese father and an Egyptian mother in New Zealand, educated in the United Kingdom, spent little time on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and also tried his hand as a stand-up comic in Los Angeles. But in 1996, he moved to Vietnam, and I guess that's what we want to hear about this evening. He's now the very proud owner of an eponymous restaurant in Hanoi. He is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bobby Chin. So what are you now, Bobby? Are you a chef that appears on TV, or have you morphed into a TV celebrity that also happens to own a restaurant in Hanoi? I mean, where's your career taking you?
I really don't know, actually. Part of the problem is there's a guilt of being a TV chef, because the life of a chef is actually stuck in a kitchen. People really don't care about you, they just care about their food. You're doing the best you can, you're working day in, day out, and then all of a sudden one day someone takes you out of your kitchen, throws you on television, And then you start staying in swank hotels, and people are much nicer to you, and it's kind of strange because you got to continue doing either one or the other. It's very difficult to continue being a TV chef. I mean, Bourdain would be the first to say, you know, he doesn't even call himself a chef anymore. You know, he's left the kitchen a long time ago. So it's tricky because you're a TV chef as long as you still have a TV show. So I guess you got to continue doing it and continue doing both and juggling, I guess.
Indeed. Well, let's focus your mind a little bit about Pak-se and Champasak province and the Mekong region. This is your first visit to Laos, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you go back to your kitchens in Hanoi, what are you hoping to take with you in terms of knowledge and inspiration, and maybe one or two local ingredients?
I think it's the Burmese salad, the green tea salad, which I'm really interested in. The food to me has been kind of like a watered down version of Thai cuisine meets Vietnam. They're using the same ingredients, but it's very similar. But the execution is a little different. It would be, I guess, perceived as being a little bit more bland than, say, Thai or southern Vietnamese food.
Your restaurant, I think, is what you would describe as a fusion restaurant, a combination, a tantalizing combination of Asian and Western food. Is that right?
A little bit of that, yeah.
And I mean, how important is it to strike the balance? Is there a balance to be struck?
Well, I think that you guys in tourism will know that, you know, if you're Joe Schmo from America visiting Asia for the first time, and it's like rice, noodle, soup, okay, after about the third day, it gets a little tiresome. So you've got to have some Western dishes. At the same token, training staff, it's much easier with their local cuisine because they know it. So it's a product mix of giving you what you want and giving some people what they need. So, you know, that's the balance of what my menu is, and always has been. It's been small plates coupled with a la carte tasting menus. And then if you want to get, for the foodie, we do the tasting menus, which incorporates technique and ingredients from these regions, as well as France or the Middle East or whatever it is, to be considered like a foodie restaurant. And that's what people write about, but, you know, I'm not sure that equates to maybe 20% of our menu.
Is the menu better or worse than it was before you were a TV chef?
I don't know. I think that when no one cared about me, I was much more experimental with food. What happens is that then there's an expectation. So you want to try and keep it consistent. So then,
does that mean being safe, being cautious rather than slightly dangerous?
There is that. There's a little caution, but there's also the idea of looking at a recipe and tweaking it or perfecting it. So, like, kids love my macaroni and cheese, and the reason why is, like, you know, I use pecorino cheese or Parmesan. I cook the macaroni in milk. I blanch it in milk. Then I use the milk to make the roux. So there's just this, you know, this the development of depth of flavor that you can create through the technique versus boiling in water, what have you, and baking in the oven. Then when you order in the restaurant, it's just dumped into a saute pan. The pasta is thrown into there, mixed in with a little cream until it's nice and warm and hot. Then it's thrown into a clay pot, and then it's put into order into a salamander. So it's just how do you execute something consistently and try and make it better than what you're doing before is a whole art within itself.
I mentioned that when I introduced you, Bobby, that you had a go at being a stand-up comic in Los Angeles. Which is the more difficult challenge, to make people laugh or to satisfy a hungry clientele in your restaurant?
They're both brutal. Yeah, I'm a chef in Vietnam, shows you how funny I am.
Well, the difference is, of course, that people would pay when they enter a comedy club, so they're expecting to be entertained, having parted with their money. They don't pay you in the restaurant until they've had their coffee and dessert wine, so it's not entirely the same, is it?
No, I mean, the other thing is you're not making a lot of money doing stand-up comedy.
Hence your status now as a TV chef, I would
Exactly.
imagine. Yes. Yeah.
Boy, this is now turning brutal. It's like hardball.
Ladies and gentlemen, our time is up, but we're not done with Bobby Jim because he's going to be demonstrating his cooking skills at tonight's gala dinner at the Champasak Cultural Hall. As the two-day event in Pak Se, Southern Laos drew to a close, I left the final word to Mason Florence, the Executive Director of the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office. Now, Mason, when you spoke to the travel show at the start of our series, you had very high hopes for the Mekong Tourism Forum. The two-day conference has now come to an end. Were all your hopes realized?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We hit the numbers that we wanted to have here. We got the variety of people from different areas, so no, we're really happy with the way it came out.
And what are the key messages that you think delegates will take away from this conference?
Well, I think sustainability is a big one. It was a theme that was a thread that was going through the entire conference. We got some great ideas and great inspiration already for next year.
Are you confident the ideas will permeate back into the offices of the national tourism organizations that were represented here?
I am. It doesn't happen overnight. Things don't happen overnight, but it's a process. But I have utter confidence, and it's all about the cooperation and collaboration. So, if there's more than one player in the game, that much more of an incentive for people to get on board and do things. So.
Now, the closing dinner tonight is being sponsored by the Tourism Authority of Thailand, and that's of course because next year's Mekong Tourism Forum is being staged in the northern city of Chiang Rai in Thailand. So, your hopes for next year?
Oh, we have high hopes again for Chiang Rai. Chiang Rai, it's their 750th anniversary of the city next year, so it's going to be a lot of other celebrations going on, and it really is, and as it's known as the gateway to the Mekong. It'll be a terrific opportunity to bring people in from Myanmar, down from China and Laos, over from Vietnam, up from Cambodia. We're expecting big things in Chiang Rai.
I'll be bringing you more from our visit to Champasak province in southern Laos after the break. But first, here's a roundup of the latest news. The Tourism Authority of Thailand's Phuket office is staging a three-day event later this month designed to raise awareness about the importance of marine conservation. The Save Nature at Phuket event includes seminars, a reef cleanup exercise at Hay Island, and a concert. The Tourism Authority is partnering with the Phuket Marine Biological Centre and the Thailand Diving Association to host the three-day event, which will also include discussions with members of the scuba diving community on ways to safeguard the marines. The Tourism Authority is partnering with the Phuket Marine Biological Centre and the Thailand Diving Association to host this three-day event, which will also include discussions with members of the scuba diving community on ways to safeguard the island's marine environment. According to TAT's Phuket Office Director Bangongrat Shinaparun, the event will underscore the need to conserve and protect the environment and to build awareness for green projects throughout the tourism sector. The Thailand International Hot Air Balloon Festival takes place this year in the northern city of Chiang Mai. The festival is being held next month at the city's Prince Royal's College, with the organisers hoping to attract up to 100,000 visitors, each paying an entrance fee of 50 baht. Hot air balloons from around Asia are expected to compete at the festival, described by the TAT's Deputy Governor, Velawan Tichasi, as a high season opener. And it's expected that Chiang Mai will now become the permanent home for this annual spectacle.
Enjoy selected dishes prepared by world-class chefs that are not just tasty but also healthy and are not too hard to make. Exotic cuisine from all across Thailand. The spices of Thailand.
Welcome back. Now, before we left Laos, we took a short bus ride to the ancient temple ruins of Wat Phu, amid concern that more visitors could damage the fabric and infrastructure of this World Heritage Site. I spoke to Daniel Davenport, an archaeologist who lives close to the ruins of Wat Phu. We're now in front of the Northern Quadrangle, part of the Wat Phu temple complex. This, of course, is an extremely important religious site, ancient monument, and of course it's attracting an increasing number of tourists, isn't it? Are you concerned, as someone who lives in this part of the world, that increased numbers of tourists might start to damage the fabric of the structure here?
Yes, of course. We're always concerned about the damage that tourism can impose on the site. But most of the people who come to visit are local Lao people, and they come for festivals such as the Wat Phu Festival. So I think the site can accommodate a lot more tourists than it does today. And with increased tourists, there will be increased funds. And with that, the museum can help protect the site more than it is today. There is a very small number of tourists, as you say, but I think with increased tourism, which we can handle, we will be able to improve the infrastructure and we will be able to handle this increased tourism.
Indeed, well, that's good to know, Daniel. Now, this site dates back some 1600 years, I think.
Correct.
Originally a Hindu temple site and then developed in the Angkor period, is that correct?
That's correct. It was originally a pre-Angkorian site. It dates back at least to the 5th century AD, but most of the structures you can see, such as the Northern Palace or the Northern Quadrangle behind us, actually date to the 11th century. So this is an Angkorian period temple. So we're not sure at which stage the Wat Phu complex became incorporated as part of the Angkorian Empire.
What is the significance to the local community of an ancient site like this? I mean, clearly it's treasured by them and they must treat it with an awful lot of respect.
Yes, they certainly do. This is the heartland of southern Laos, and although the capital city of southern Laos is now Pak Se, 30 kilometres to the north, this is still the notional capital of southern Laos, Champasak. This is where the heart is. And the main reason for that is the symbolism in the landscape.
Well, that's it for this week's show. My very special thanks once again to Robert Yearman and all his team at the Dream Hotel in Bangkok. I hope you've enjoyed our look back at the Mekong Tourism Forum in Pak Se, southern Laos. Next week I'll bring you more highlights from the travel show, but until then, from everyone on the team, it's goodbye.